read. Today's story is Kate DeCamino. Mercy Watson. Let's go, 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 Dayoung Read. You're ready? I'm ready. Let's go, go, go. Oink, oink. Kate DeCamino. Mercy Watson. Chapter 1. Mrs. Watson and Mrs. Watson. Mr. Watson and Mrs. Watson have a pig named Mercy. Each night, they sang their Mercy to sleep. Bright, bright as the morning sun. Sing Mr. and Mrs. Watson, but brighter still is our darling one. Said, dark, dark as the coming night, but oh, our Mercy shines so bright. This song makes Mercy feel warm inside if she has just eaten hot toast with a great deal of butter on it. Mercy likes hot toast with a great deal of butter on it. But when Mrs. and Mr. and Mrs. Watson kiss her good night and turn off the light, Mercy's room becomes dark, very dark. And Mercy does not feel warm, buttery toast inside anymore. She feels afraid. One night, after Miss and Miss Watson, their song about their son, kiss Mercy goodnight and turn off the light. Mercy decides something. She decided that she would be much happier because she wasn't sleeping alone. And so Mercy got out of the bed. And got into bed with Miss and Mrs. Watson. The snuggle up between them, Mercy felt warm inside, like she had just eaten hot toast with a great deal of butter on it. Mr. Watson and Mrs. Watson and Mercy was all in bed together. They were all dreaming. Mrs. Watson was dreaming of driving a very fast car. Vroom, said Mrs. Watson in her sleep. Vroom, vroom. Mrs. Watson was dreaming buttery hot toast for Mercy. She buttered one piece, and then another piece, and then another. Have some more, dear, Mrs. Watson in his sleep. It up. Yum, yum. Mercy was dreaming about butter hot toast, too. And Mercy's dream, hot butter toast is piled high over her favorite blue plate. And Mrs. Watson was buttering still more. It was an excellent dream. Mr. Watson said, vroom, vroom. Mrs. Watson said, have some more, dear. Mercy snuffles and chews in her dream. Mrs. Watson and Mr. Watson. Mercy was all busy sleeping that did not hear the creak. But they were so busy dreaming that they did not hear from the former. own. Chapter 3. Bloom! The toad opened the Watson's bed. Crack! The Watson's bed fell into the hole. Mrs. Watson woke up. Mrs. Watson woke up. Mercy woke up too. What the? Said Mrs. Watson. Oink, said Mercy. It's an earthquake, shrilled Mrs. Watson. It's the end of the world. Nonsense, said Mrs. Watson. Mr. Watson. But he did not sound very sure. He sounded frightened. But Mercy, however, was not frightened. Mercy was hungry. Oink, said Mercy again. She moved to the end of the bed. Boom, crack. The bed fell a little farther into the hole in the floor. Don't move, said Mrs. Watson. Wherever you do, don't move, said Mrs. Watson. Mrs. Watson and Mrs. Watson Mercy had very still. Mrs. Watson started to cry. I know exactly what we must do, said Mrs. Watson. We must call the fire department. They will rescue us. Not very not move, said Mrs. Watson. How do we call the fire department if we cannot move? Mercy recalled a lovely toast-filled dream. She wondered if there are any toast in the kitchen. While Mrs. and Mrs. Watson are arguing, Mercy hopped off the bed. Boom! Crack! Look, said Mrs. Watson. Mercy had escaped. She's gonna find the help, said Mr. Watson. She's going to alert the fire department. Mercy left the bedroom at a gallop. She was in a hurry. She was on her way to the kitchen. She was looking for some toast. Chapter 4. In the kitchen, Mercy sniffed the table. She sniffed the kitchen countries. She sniffed the floor, but there was no toast. There was not even a crumb of toast. Mercy's stomach was growled in disappointment. Boom! Crack! Help us! said Mr. and Mrs. called. Mercy thought very hard. Where could she get a snack? And then answer came to her. Baby Lincoln always had sugar cookies. Baby Lincoln lived next door, and Baby Lincoln liked to share. Mercy took the kitchen doorknob in her mouth. Oh, said Mr. and Mrs. Wilson. Again, sugar cookies. To Mercy, she stepped outside. Chapter 5. The Lincoln sisters lived next door of the Watsons. Amelia Lincoln is the older sister. She has many opticians. One of Amelia's options is the picture not live in houses. Amelia often says, "Listen closely to me, baby. Pigs are farm animals." Me, baby. Pigs are farm animals. They belong on farms. They do not belong in houses. Yes, sister, said Baby. Baby Lincoln was the younger sister. She is the baby of the family. Baby agrees with everything in Amelia was her sister. Says it easier that way, but seriously, the option is her own. At the Lincoln sister's house, Mercy looked into the baby's window. She could see Baby sleeping. Mercy pressed her snore up against the window pane. "Oink," said Mercy. But Baby did not hear her. "Snuffle," said Mercy. But Baby did not wake up. Mercy trapped her hoof against the window. "Who's there?" she said. Baby saw Mercy's snow pressed up against the window. Baby saw Mercy's snow pressed up against the window. "A monster!" shouted Baby. "A monster at my window!" Mercy looked ahead. Mercy shook her head. "Sister!" shouted Baby. "Help! Help! A monster!" Amelia woke up. She didn't put her teeth in her glasses. Amelia went straight to the phone and called the fire department and crashed off the uncrane natural a Deckwood Drive, said Amelia Lincoln. And Amelia put her robe and rushed to Baby's room. Her own obsession, Amelia Lincoln was very good and crisp. Chapter 6. What's going on here? asked Amelia. "There is a monster outside," said Baby. She pointed the window. "That's not a monster," said Amelia. "That's a pig from next door." "Mercy," said Baby. Amelia shook her fist. "In my option," said Amelia, "pigs belong on farms." "Yes, sister," said Baby. Amelia tapped Uncle against the window. "Get out of my yard," said Mercy. "Oh, sister," said Baby, "don't yell at her. You'll hurt her feelings." "She doesn't have feelings," shouted Amelia. "She's a pig." "Oh," said Baby, "I'm sure you're wrong, dear." "I'm not wrong," Amelia shouted. "I'm ever wrong. I know a pig when I see one." Amelia growled. They pressed their nose against the window pane. Mercy stared at Agnolia. Agnolia stared at Mercy. Pig! So Agnolia. She turned around the baby's room. Oh dear, said baby Lincoln. Oh my! Chapter 7. Agnolia ran toward Mercy. Mercy hit babe faster. There was going to be a chase. Mercy left chase. She led Agnolia very close to her. Oink, said Mercy, dashing away. Get out of my yard! Said Agnolia. Oink, oink, said Mercy. She ran the circles. She kicked up her ears. 잠깐만요. 다음. Oh, sister, said baby, please be careful. A sudden wailed. A fire truck flew into a Lincoln sister's driveway, and Lorenzo out of the truck. Do you think that that's the emergency? Ned asked. Could be, said Lorenzo. Ned and Lorenzo sighed. You never know this job. Ma'am, said Lorenzo baby. Did you call the fire department? Oh dear, said baby. I did not. But Agnolia may be called. Who's Agnolia? Said Dad. My sister, said baby. Is that her? Said Lorenzo. When chasing the pig? Wait, please. Yes, that's her. Baby and Lorenzo watched Agnolia chasing Mercy through the yard. Lorenzo cleared the road. What's the emergency? Actually, I thought I saw a monster bedroom window, but it was not a monster. It was Mercy. Mercy, said Lorenzo. The pig, said baby. The pig lives next door. I see, said Ned. Agnolia don't care for Mercy, said baby. It's a pigeon. Pigs belong on farms. There's something to say for a fashion, said Lorenzo. Ned nodded. Help, said the furry voice. Help! Help! Help us! Did you hear that? Asked Ned. Somebody is in trouble, said Lorenzo. Let's go. Chapter 9. Chapter 9. Ned and Lorenzo ran toward the call for help. They went to the Watsons' house. Help! Said Ned and Lorenzo looked up. They saw a bed hanging out of the ceiling. They saw Mr. and Mrs. Watson holding on the bed dear life. We're safe, said Mrs. Watson. Of course we are saved, said Mr. and Mrs. Watson. Mercy had alerted the fire department. She's amazing, said Mrs. Watson. She's unbelievable. She's a porcelain wonder, said Mr. Watson. Ned and Lorenzo ran upstairs. They picked up Mr. and Mrs. Watson. The Watsons bed silently and loudly and crashed the white through the floor. Boom! The Watsons bed a hole where the bed used to be. I have always believed in family, the fire department, said Watsons. As I have, said Mrs. Watson. As have I. From questions from Wilson's High Forest Where? Gotcha, said Sheldon Nulia. Chapter 10. Ba-da-ba-da-bum. Ba-da-bum. Tick, tick. Chapter 10. Ned and Lorenzo, Mr. and Mrs. Watson all went outside. Agnolia was sitting on the ground. Her arms were wrapped around Mercy's neck. Her cheek was resting on Mercy's back. Agnolia was breathing very loudly. This pig, she said, was all my property. We prefer did you turn her a pig? Mother said, would you prefer her curl of force and wonder? Said Mrs. Watson. After all, she did save us. She is a hero. She's a pig, said Agnolia. She started to cry. There, sister, said Baby. She ran over and pat Agnolia on the back. Mercy yawned. She was very tired. I guess that's it, said Ned. Yep, Sir Lorenzo. Our work here is done. Wait, said Mrs. Watson. It's almost time for breakfast. Oink, said Mercy. That's right, breakfast, said Mr. and Mrs. Watson. She kissed up top of Mercy's head. She looked up at the firemen. Did you boys like toast? Chapter 11. Beep, beep. In the Watson's house, around the Watson's kitchen table, and Agnolia Lincoln and Baby Lincoln and Mrs. Watson and Mrs. Watson and Ned and Lorenzo and Mercy, of course. She was at the head of the table, a seat of honor. And in front of her, it was a favorite blue plate, a tall berry stack of hot buttered toast. A toast to Mercy, said Mrs. Watson. Holding a glass of orange juice. A toast, darling, our dear, said Mercy's Watson. Our toast to Mercy, said Baby. In my opinion, said Agnolia, pigs should not be toasted. In my opinion, pigs do not belong on the kitchen table. To our heroes, said Watson. Where should we hang with Mercy? Yes, said Mrs. Watson. Who would have saved us? I can't imagine, said Ned. Me neither, said Lorenzo. They all clinked glass. Mercy had another piece of toast. Chapter 12. The Last. Outside the Watson's house, the sun was rising. First the sun was red, and then was orange. It rose higher and higher. Inside the Watson's house, Mercy was lying on the couch. She was getting ready to take a nap. Bright, bright is the morning sun, said Mr. and Mrs. Watson. But brighter still is our pause and wonder. Said Mercy smiled. She closed her eyes. It was asleep before Mr. and Mrs. Watson even finished the song. Thank you for reading me today and have a good night. Bye bye. Good. Have a great day.